How about those Pacers? Before we get to tonight's podcast, just want to tell you about the Central Indiana Scoreboard Show, our flagship program. It's a SportsCenter style podcast. Every weekday at 1 o'clock, we talk about the Pacers, the Colts, IU, Purdue, IndyCar, plus the Fever, and some national sports, plus high school and college sports in Blackford, Delaware, Grant, Howard, Madison, Tipton, and northern Hamilton counties. Again, every weekday, 1 p.m. You are listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report, podcast number 250.3. Codey Emerson, Mike Hutsell, Mike Rich, Will Rutherford, guest Sam Frick, and I react to the Pacers' dramatic 119-118 win over the Milwaukee Bucks in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference playoffs. I had a plan going into this. I mostly just stammered in disbelief at what just happened.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengel.
8 seconds. Halliburton against Giannis. Halliburton, 3 seconds. Puts it in. He put it in. 1 3/10.
There's no timeout.
No timeouts for the Bucks. Giannis to inbound. Here's Trent.
Great victory for these guys. What a heck of a victory. Struggle.
Welcome, Pacers fans. We have got a 5-man crew here tonight. The night of one of probably the most dramatic Pacers playoff win this century, I would say. Down late at the end of the half, down late at the end of overtime, and found a way to win. Before I get to my guest, let me do the 15-second recap. The Pacers got down 20 points early, got within 6 at halftime, led parts of the second half back and forth, got down late. Who made the shot to get the Pacers into overtime?
Halliburton.
Cody, you were there.
Yeah, it was Tyrese.
Okay.
It was, yeah.
And then Tyrese hit the game winner in overtime. And the Pacers have eliminated the Bucks. I have got with me Mike Hutsell, who used to be my boss, the best boss I've ever had. Codey Emerson of the banner graphic from Greencastle. I've got Will Rutherford from Elwood, and my pro sports guy, and Sam Frick from Fort Wayne, here to talk about a great Pacers win. Sam, you're new. Your thoughts going in, and then we'll get to Codey, who was at the game.
Coming into this game, Greg, I'll be honest with you. Pacers had everything going for them going into Game 5. They had that dominant win in Game number 4, right? It was Milwaukee's second largest blowout defeat in their history of the playoffs. Damian Lillard's out for the playoffs. Indiana's got all this momentum going to home. Everything seems to be going Indiana's favor, and then you see how the game started, and you can just tell, like, Milwaukee just seemed like they had nothing to lose going into the start of that game. They were up 11-0 to start the game, led by as many as 20 points. And when you looked at the stats, guys, Milwaukee played like they had if you looked at the stats, they made 19 of 43s. They committed fewer turnovers than Indiana, shot the ball well. I mean, you had Gary Trent Jr. with 33 points in that game, 8 from downtown. It was a game that had a recipe for Milwaukee win, but as you can see throughout this entire series, it just kind of felt like, for some reason, Indiana always seemed to have a response whenever Milwaukee went on their runs. And tonight, Indiana had that nice comeback, one of the craziest wins in Indiana Pacers history. And Tyrese Halliburton, what more can we say about Tyrese Halliburton coming up with big shot after big shot in the most important moments of the team's seasons? And now the Pacers are going to be finding themselves advancing to the second round to take on the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's a series that you felt like, man, that series felt like a 7-game series, but Indiana just seemed to have the bounces going their way in the most opportune moments.
Codey, what was it like in there? And again, one of the best games in Pacers history.
Apologize if I'm sound a little raspy. I was telling you guys my voice isn't
100%. It's definitely not going to be 100% tomorrow at work, but it was well worth it. The atmosphere was it, obviously at the very end. It was as electric as I've ever seen Bainbridge Fieldhouse. I was at the game. I've been to some couple improbable Pacers wins. One that jumps right out of me is when Oladipo hit the game winner. I can't remember if that was in the playoffs or not over Boston. It might have been during the regular season. I can't remember. I mean, I've just been to some pretty important games at Cambridge, and this one tops the cake. I mean, you talk about what was it like in there? Well, with 30, 40 seconds left, there were people leaving.
I
Because,
bet.
and rightfully so.
I was leaving spiritually.
I was starting to slowly creep that way. Then I think Nemhard hits a three. Did Halliburton or hit a two or something like Neesmith hit a two, and then the Bucks give the Pacers an ultimate gift with a turnover. I think with 10 seconds left,
That's right.
and
Their guy too tonight,
yeah,
Gary Trent
it
Jr.
was in the atmosphere flipped on its head because in just about 40 seconds, and then I don't know if they what they showed on the telecast or whatever, but there was a little extracurricular activities
Yeah.
after. I don't, to be quite honest, I was celebrating with some of my friends and some nearby Pacers fans around us. Then we look back and it is a jumbled mess at center court. I would assume that Bobby Portis was involved with that.
No,
But
it was actually Giannis whispered something to Matherin, and it ticked
okay.
Matherin off.
Well, those two have had history this series too, so that doesn't. I mean, like I said, I wasn't paying attention, and we all turned back to center court like, "Oh, what the hell's going on?" But I mean, to sum it up, I was preparing to hop on here and absolutely light up Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah.
I really was. He did not play. I mean, the stats are going to show that he played a typical Tyrese Halliburton game, but he is the reason they were down as much as 6 or 7 points in overtime.
Yeah.
He was playing iso ball with Bobby Portis and Giannis and chucking up threes, and it didn't. And they weren't falling until. Then of course he hits the big one. And what I loved about him being on Giannis, or him, it was him versus Giannis. Giannis had 5 fouls, and Tyrese knew it. So I think that's why Giannis kind of in overtime was giving some people some more space because he didn't want to foul out. Credit to Pascal Siakam for not fouling out either, although the Bucks really didn't attack him much with 5 fouls. It was, as a whole, it was. I mean, it doesn't matter how ugly it is. The matter is that the Pacers are moving on to the Eastern Conference semifinals, and like we've said, in one of the most dramatic, insane wins that I'll definitely remember for quite a while, and I know most of Pacers country will.
Mike Rich just joined us from the airport. We'll get to him in just a second. We'll get to you in just a second, Mike, as he's traveling the country, as he's always seems to be doing. But Mike Hutsell, your thoughts on that one? That was something else. How many times did you think it was over?
Well, I mean, I thought it was over when it was 30-13 after the first quarter. I said, this is, a worst case scenario. Like, I know we talked at one point during the day about this is the Pacers can afford a loss here. I hate that mindset because all of a sudden you lose tonight, you go to Milwaukee, you lose. All of a sudden you're in a game 7 against Giannis.
Against Giannis, that's right.
Even though I think the
Scary
Pacers
man.
probably had 4 of the 5 best players in this series, I just did not want to go to a one-game scenario against Giannis and whatever the heck Gary Trent decided to become this week. So it was a little frightening to see them play the way that they did, but as the unelected, unofficial president of the Andrew Nemhard fan club, I'm going to shout out my boy here. He hits a 3 from the logo when they're down 6. And then he comes up with that steal when it looked like maybe Trent thought they were going to foul him. He's in the right place at the right time. They get the ball back immediately. And the game just started to change there. And then obviously Trent lets the ball Buckner between his legs. And Tyrese comes up clutch there. to go into a series against Cleveland, you know you're going to have to be fresh. You know you're going to have a daunting task in front of you. To get out of this series in 5 games is just a huge, huge win for the Pacers. So I just can't understate how important it was to figure out however they did it to get it done, and they did.
Mike Rich, thanks for joining us all the way from wherever the heck you are this time. That was something else.
So I'm walking through Charlotte, and I just wanted a preview of what I missed. So I've been on a plane for most of the game. Got to catch the first half just watching it on ESPN Gamecast because my damn app that I pay for doesn't allow me to watch it anywhere else. But yeah, I got the NBA TV too, and I think they're blacked out on that too. But now I think that what I've saw and heard, I think it's exactly the Pacers game. I mean, they let some unknown person have a lights out game, and they let Gary Trent, looks like, had 2 of those. You know, they made the run when they needed to. They tied the game. They got into overtime, and big players play big. And Halliburton hitting that layup was pretty awesome to see when I came off the plane today or a few minutes ago.
Made a couple of big threes in overtime. Mike, you and I are going to be talking about this this series and the next series coming up in the next couple of days on the Pacers report. So, but thanks for joining us. And Will, you and I will be talking about this as well on 5 questions that need answers. But your thoughts? That was again. I haven't had anything to say. I've barely had time to think since that happened.
Well, I would like to keep it short, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to. I'm just going to say the Pacers are the Bucks. I mean, just nothing other than domination. Giannis needs to bow down to Tyrese, to acknowledge greatness because Tyrese has done nothing but prove it against him. Gary Trent Jr., he had it going for him, and then when the game mattered the most, he just pisses down his leg like a dog out in the yard. And he gave Tyrese an in, and he took it, and it was game, set, match. It's as simple as that. The Pacers, this team is greatness exemplified. I said before, Pacers in 5, they proved me right, and I cannot wait for my second part of this prediction to be right when they go into Quicken Loans, win 1 of 2, come back, win 2 of 2 in Indy, and end up beating the Cavs in 5 as well. So this is exactly how I saw the board playing out.
I love that, Will, because I thought the same about the Pacers in this series. I thought that they were going to – I thought Friday after they lost, I was like, they're going to win it in the next 2.
Anybody else think Will's delusional because the Pacers are not winning this series?
I don't know. Like, they could make this an interesting series. I think the real question is going to be, Cleveland is obviously an amazing basketball team. And anytime you have a team like Donovan Mitchell, obviously you're going to have a tall task ahead of you with this Cleveland team. I could see this go the distance. 6-7 games is very possible. And if Indiana can force Cleveland to put some pressure Game 7 at their building, you never know what could happen in Game 7. I think it's possible. I think the key thing of Indiana is going to be obviously staying healthy. Halliburton's got to stay healthy. He's been amazing in the playoffs, other than the start of tonight. Didn't look so hot there, but I think what Will said is very key here. They're going to have to at least steal a game in Cleveland for them to have a chance. But I do think Indiana making this a series, if not even winning this series, I think is certainly a possibility. As you look at the Eastern Conference race. I think Cleveland would be a favorite in the East, but I think even the Boston Celtics still have a chance once again to contend in the Eastern Conference as well. But I think Cleveland potentially losing Indiana is not completely delusional either. But I think but Indiana's going to have to get out.
Pacers in 5 is what I'm saying. I think they can win the series, obviously, but
that's not what you were saying the last time we were on. You said they had like a 15% chance.
Right. That's what I'm saying. They can win it, but I don't think they will. 15% chance is about right. Yeah.
I think the Pacers obviously think they can win it because I think this is the path they chose for the playoffs. I think they went into the last week of the season and they could have overtaken New York, but then they went into that game against Orlando on like Friday of the last weekend and benched all their guys. It was almost like they wanted the Milwaukee series and they wanted to stay as far away as they could from, to me, it seemed like Boston. So
Yeah,
I think they chose this route because they feel like this is their best path. So I think they obviously feel like they can win.
I would have much rather taken this route. And Detroit probably could have maybe gotten maybe in 5 too, but I mean the fact that I'd much rather deal with not have to deal with Boston. I think Boston's the clear favorite in the East. I mean, they're the defending NBA champs, and I, as far as this Cleveland series, I think that you look at that series against the Heat, which, by the way, can we get rid of the freaking play-in? And because the Heat, I mean, that's a whole other topic for a whole other day.
Amen.
Wouldn't have been in anyway.
But they might have, but
They
that's how
would have been
the
anyway, yeah.
that's how bad the bottom of the Eastern Conference was this year. But that's I don't think that series. Obviously, Cleveland's a good team, but I don't think that series showed. I don't think Cleveland's going to be able to do that. The Pacers are way better than Miami. They're way better offensively. Cleveland will be a much tougher defensive challenge than Milwaukee. I'll tell you this: I don't think you can go down 20 against Cleveland
No.
and probably come back. They're not. Cleveland is just. I mean, they got the defensive player of the year in Evan Mobley. They've got Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, all good defenders. I'm curious to see
Jared
what
Allen.
Jared Allen in the middle. I'm curious of the matchups, like who's going to guard who, and that kind of. That's what I'm really intrigued about. Because there is who's going to guard Donovan Mitchell, who's going to guard Tyrese Halliburton, and all, for Cleveland. I think we know kind of the big matchups, but down low. But as far as the adjustments in that series, I'll say just because I'm a Pacers homer, I'll say Pacers in 6 in that series. I will give Cleveland some respect, but they they're a young team that really haven't had playoff pressure. So I think if the Pacers start to apply some pressure, well, it'll be interesting to see how they deal with that.
And one
So
advantage I think the Pacers have that just continues to maybe get overlooked a little bit is the experience and the just I want to say excellence of Rick Carlisle and his staff. I mean, the biggest mismatch maybe in the first round was Rick Carlisle versus Doc Rivers. As a guy who's followed Philadelphia and to the side for several years, you can't get me to say a single positive thing about Doc Rivers. So choosing any route where you get to play Doc Rivers in round 1 is probably the right route. But Rick, he's always won when he's been in Indiana, and he's come back here and they put a team around him that he can win with. And he's doing an excellent job with a team that's got a lot of depth. He seems to have the right guys on the floor, other than game 3 of this series where he made some really wonky decisions, but we'll forget that. I think Rick is going to be an advantage against Cleveland because I think with his experience and knowing what buttons to push, that's going to be one advantage that we have going into this next round.
Do you agree that with everybody else that the Pacers are going to win the series?
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I do think it's going to be a really, really difficult series. I think Indiana's biggest advantage against a lot of teams is their overall depth. They don't really have a huge fall off from when they do go to guys on the bench in certain situations, but Cleveland is also a team that has a lot of quality guys, and I'm just seeing it right now. Some rando from Cleveland is going to go off for 8 threes in a game. My prediction is it's going to be Ty Jerome at some point.
That's right.
So it always happens against Indiana. Am I willing to go outright win? I'm probably not there yet. I think you're looking at a six game series at the bare minimum, though, and possibly 7. And as we said earlier, when you get to a 7, who knows what will happen.
I will say this, Mike. Doc Rivers had a great game plan tonight. That was their only hope was to come out and jump on him, and his game plan tonight was really good. and it gave them a chance to win twice.
I thought that it looked like game three when they jumped out and were just not letting the Pacers breathe. And they were causing, it was turnover city early for the Pacers. They had no idea what was going on. So, yeah, Doc, he came with a good game plan, but it kind of speaks to the magic of Rich Carlisle and the adjustments that he made. And so it's not the adjustment to the adjustment, as us sports people like to say, is, and the Pacers won the adjustment to the adjustment. So it was crucial that they had to calm down and settle in a little bit.
Still want to throw him in the canal, Will?
There has been a lot of Rick Carlisle love going on. I will say that I do think he coached really well this series. I thought he did a good job of kind of taking Giannis away. Even though Giannis had a lot of points, he made it difficult for Giannis to get other teammates involved. Tonight Gary Trent obviously goes off. AJ Green obviously goes off, but for the most part, the 5 games, really, the Pacers did a really good job of keeping the rest of the Bucks in check. And, I may have been a little excited when I said Pacers in 5, but I do really feel strongly and have said this for a couple months now that I think this Pacers team is going to cause the Cavs problems for a few reasons. One, this Pacers team likes to take teams into deep water and force them to tread. The Pacers are real comfortable swimming out there. And, this series gives me very 2012 divisional round between Peyton Manning and the Baltimore Ravens when the Broncos had been the best team the entire year. And the Ravens came and were just really gritty, stole a game, and ended up winning a Super Bowl. And I'm not saying the Pacers are going to go and win a finals, but I think that this is a gritty team that the whole year they've won in games that they really have no business of winning in late. They steal games from teams. They can run guys off the bench. And I just think that the Pacers have enough offense to really match the Cavs, where the Heat were not able to. I think that Siakam, he had a bad game tonight, but he's been good the whole series. And I really think, Tyrese Halliburton may have won this game for the Pacers, but Andrew Nembhard won the series. And I expect that to continue. I expect him to match up against Donovan Mitchell and make his life an absolute living hell for 7 games where this inevitably goes. Nim hell is not a place you want to be for 2 weeks, and I just expect that to continue. I think that he has really solidified himself as one of the best two-way players in the game, and I expect that to continue.
Well, I think when you piggyback to last year when Indiana faced the New York Nets, and all the narrative was, well, the Nets are they're the team that can make it to the NBA Finals, blah, 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 blah. And then the Pacers went the distance, went to Game 7, won that series in 7 games in dominant fashion against the Nets, made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. And we all heard about when the Boston Celtics said, hey, Indiana was our toughest opponent in our run to win that championship. So to piggyback the reference to Indiana Fever, now they know that the Indiana Pacers are a legitimate playoff contender. So I think the Cleveland Cavaliers, they got to be ready to know this is probably going to be a dogfight of a series. And I think the depth is going to be a key thing for the Pacers, especially when you're facing against a team like Cleveland, one of the top defenses in the league. And I love Andrew Nembhard, even going back to his days in Gonzaga and whatnot. I love his game overall. And, that's the thing I've always liked about the Pacers under Rick Carlisle is they've always had that one guy that comes in, make a big play, make a defensive stop. You have the confidence from everybody across the board to make a play. And I think that's something that I think Cleveland is going to have a much more difficult time with Indiana in the series and whatnot. So I think there has to be some swagger coming in that the Pacers know they know they're capable of winning in the playoffs because what we've seen in recent years, what they've seen with development of this depth as a whole. I think the key thing is going to be the Cleveland Cavaliers defensively. Can they contain Donovan Mitchell enough, and can they get off to better starts? Because the last 2 games, if there's one thing we have to be concerned about a little bit going in, is Indiana having spurts where they don't always play at the level that we know they are capable of. But when they play at their highest level, they're a tough team to play against. And I agree with what you guys are saying. It's a gritty team. That's one of the things that makes Indiana such a tough team to play for a 7-game series is that grittiness that you have to match in the playoffs. So I agree, and I'm pretty excited to see what this matchup could bring with Cleveland on starting Saturday, I believe.
There's one guy that this game would not have been won without him, and his name is MCCONNELL McConnell. Man, was he awesome tonight again.
Yeah, it was. He's so. I mean, he's not. I don't compare him to Bobby Portis in terms of like the sorry for my French, the piece of shit that Bobby Portis is. But I can't stand Bobby Portis personally. But and so glad we don't have to see him until he's a free agent, so we might not have to see him on Milwaukee next year. But anyway, he's that pest. TJ McConnell is. He gets under your skin, and I don't know what it is about. You talk about players having signature moves. That little free throw line fader that he has perfected. I don't know why it goes in. I don't know how it goes in more often than not, but by God, he's perfected it. And I love TJ McConnell. Every team would love to have him. He's won everywhere he's went. When he was with Philly, Philly didn't win the championship, obviously.
Philly has been trying to replace that guy since they let him go.
Absolutely. We're definitely glad that Philly let us have him. So
Markel Fultz and Ben Simmons were too good for TJ McConnell to crack the rotation.
He's just I love watching him. He got some of the when he came out of the game. I think it might have been late third quarter or early fourth quarter, whenever he came out of the game last. The ovation that he got from this crowd, everyone was on their feet because they know how important of a role that he played tonight.
And Mike Rich, you and I have said a lot of negative things about Miles Turner over the years, but they don't win that game without him either.
I agree 100%. I don't think they win the series without him. He played pretty well the whole series, offensively, defensively. I think, we're underrating the Pacers as Pacer fans, which is kind of crazy because we're just like the national media and not giving them a chance really with Cleveland. And I think they have a really good chance against Cleveland. I think Cleveland had a layup with Miami, and I think their first
Sure
playoff
did.
game is going to be against the Pacers. So they better bring the intensity because the Pacers are already there.
Can I just throw out an exercise? The way I like to break down in any series, especially in the NBA, in a 7-game series, is I like to take the two rosters and just start ranking the guys. Against Milwaukee, I said they've got the best player, but we've probably got the next best 5 players in this series. And that was before Dame blew his Achilles out, because I have no opinion on Dame Lillard. If you break down the series, and maybe it's something you do for another preview podcast, but do you put Donovan at the top? I'm going to give them Donovan. How many Pacers do you rank above the next best Cavalier?
One.
Just one?
Just one.
And that's Tyrese. So who do you have as the third best player in the series?
Evan Mobley. And Garland may be fourth. But it's close.
I don't know. I don't know. Nemhard is playing lights out too. So I mean,
I think Garland and Nemhard kind of just cancel each other out a little bit.
I agree.
Does Mobley cancel out Miles, or does Miles cancel out Mobley, or is Mobley that much better than Miles to you guys?
Mobley's that much better than Miles.
He's defensively. Defensively, you're probably right, but Miles is, I think, a much better offensive guy.
Mobley is like Rudy Gobert. He's a great defender, but the dude is I don't think he's very skilled offensively. And Greg, are you doing your best Dan Dockich with the Colts impersonation? We're just going to hate on the Pacers.
I love the Pacers. I think they're the 4th best team in the East, but
I think it's even. I think this is as even as the New York Knicks series was last year.
I think Cleveland is the best team in the NBA.
No.
I think the winner of this series is going.
Greg, I don't think they're the best team in the East.
Okay.
I think that still goes to Boston.
Yeah, until proven otherwise, it's Boston for me.
Boston.
I'm just saying, after watching games all year, The best team I saw all year was the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Playoff basketball is a little different.
I understand that. They are a playoff ready roster though. That is
Oh,
a good team. They're deep. And they're
absolutely.
balanced.
Yeah.
And I
I respect Cleveland. I really didn't. Milwaukee with the rivalry, it's easy to hate on them. But I love Donovan Mitchell. I've loved him ever since he came in the league and when he was with Utah. And then Cleveland doesn't have obviously the hateable players that Milwaukee does. So I think it's gonna be a fun series. I mean, hopefully it's not as chippy as this one, but you never know.
we say that now, but I bet by next
Oh
Sunday
yeah,
we're cussing Ty Jerome and
absolutely.
Would not surprise me one bit. Yeah, I say the only last thing that I got is how we all are putting a bet on the national media talking about the Bucks losing this series and not how the Pacers won it.
Yep.
Tomorrow morning.
absolutely.
Right tomorrow.
What's the future of Giannis?
Yep, that's exactly what they're going to be talking about. Not going to give the Pacers any credit in the world.
Hey, let's talk about the future of Giannis real fast because I was listening to Bill
Bye-bye.
Simmons. I'm sorry.
I was just saying bye-bye.
Yeah, I think so.
I'll put it bluntly. He's not coming back.
I was listening to
wouldn't
Bill
want to do that.
Simmons, and he made a really good point. Milwaukee's only choice now is to trade him for 3 or 4 good players and just stay competitive because they have no first-round draft picks. And I'm just saying that one of the teams that could do that would be the Indiana Pacers. So, just saying.
I think he's going to enjoy South Beach.
I hope so.
I agree. I think he's going to Miami.
The Bucks are just in hell because
Yes,
they don't
they
control.
are.
I mean,
They're
They don't control any of their. What is it? I think they're 4 or 5 next first round picks.
Yep.
Now,
Nope, that's right.
as bad as Brook Lopez was in this series, I mean, he's gone. Bobby Portis is a free agent. I'm not sure about any of the other guys, but
Yeah, they're in fact whoever they trade Giannis to is going to have to take Damian Lillard as well because of his salary.
He's on the books for $54 million next year.
no one's taking Dame.
Who can
Play until
absorb that?
next year, until April at the
Except
earliest.
And he has a player option the year after that for like almost 60. So
That's going to have to be the deal.
I don't know who can take that money on.
You'd be ludicrous to take that deal.
It is not going to go well for Milwaukee. It's not going to go well in Phoenix. It's not going to go well in Miami for a little while, although Miami can do a little more, has a little more flexibility. But man, there are some franchises in trouble.
So what are you saying, Greg? Ty Hero, Davion Mitchell, and another piece from Miami for Giannis is going to get the job done.
Like 3 or 4 first round picks.
If it was the Lakers, it would probably work. That would probably get the Lakers Giannis. 3 guys that nobody ever heard of, and that seems to be the Lakers. It seems to happen to them twice a decade.
Dallas will be so desperate to offdo what they did this year that they could get into a Giannis sweepstakes.
There you go. But what do they have to offer? Yeah.
Well, they got young pieces that
I'm saying the Pacers can go Siakam, Neesmith, and either Matherin or Walker and a first-round draft pick, and we're probably close.
Why would we do that?
Because he's the best player in the world.
I don't think he fits with this team very well, to be honest with you. The way it's constructed as is, I don't.
And Halliburton running the floor would be unstoppable.
He's a ball-heavy forward. I mean, he dominates the ball. You've got way too much talent. I wouldn't do it. I would not want Giannis on the Pacers for that package. No way in hell. I wouldn't do it.
Well, they are one move away from being an actual serious contender, I believe. So
well, I think you are right there. I'm not disagreeing with that, but I just don't think that Giannis, in the way we talk about a forward that runs the floor, that's great. But Giannis just controls the ball so much with Tyrese and Giannis. I don't think that relationship would work very well.
Too many chefs in the kitchen.
Yeah. Well, and Giannis, with all due respect to Giannis, the dude has no game free throw outside the free throw line.
Correct. But he's so good inside
Right.
the free throw line that it doesn't matter that much. It's like Shaquille O'Neal. I say he's the most feared player since Shaquille O'Neal.
I mean, I think this series, though, is indicative of his shortcoming, and that's the fact that I don't think that he is that good at winning. I mean, it sounds awful, but I mean, he's won a championship, but I mean, that's a one-off. He really hasn't done anything since then.
They haven't been out of the first round since they won the title.
I don't think that that's works. I mean, the Pacers. I mean, we talk about the Pacers are a player away from contending, but the Pacers have been closer the last 2 years than the Bucks have thought of. So, I mean,
That
I just
roster's
think
awful.
I don't know where Giannis goes. The league will burn down if he goes to the Lakers, though. I think for the sake of the national media not just being so obnoxious, he's got to go to South Beach.
My guess is Houston is going to be the one. They've got the pieces to trade.
They do.
They said Houston. I think
Oklahoma.
I remember Oklahoma. Yeah,
I don't know why they would do it.
because they have 20 first round picks to spare. What the hell?
I was gonna say
but
they
got
have a first round pick for every day of like the month of February. So
yeah, I would.
they've got the right pieces to the puzzle. They don't need to add anything.
Yeah, if you had Giannis with Shea and potentially Chet Holmgren, I don't know. We'd have to give up a young piece.
I think if they make that deal, Chet would have to go to Milwaukee. But I think if you're OKC, you would gladly give up Chet if you're Giannis.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to give up many players with all those first round picks that they have.
But I also think that's a relationship that doesn't work. Shy's so ball centric, so is Giannis. I mean, there's only so much to feed, and I just don't see that working well. I see that being a situation just like Phoenix, where it's like we've got all these stars, but they bitch at each other the whole game because they don't get the ball enough, and then that's no fun for anybody. And then a coach gets fired, and then a GM gets fired, and then you're stuck with Giannis. You're in the same position the Bucks are in, and that's why I don't think that the market for Giannis is going to be as good as what people think. I wouldn't be shocked if he's still with the Bucks come next year, because I just don't think that there are that many people that say, "Damn, Giannis gets me a championship."
Well, it was really cool. Our first, I believe, 6-person panel after Mike Rich came in there at the end to talk some Pacers basketball. It was one heck of a night. I have lost my voice. It's late. But man, was that a lot of fun. Both the game and the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoy these podcasts, please share them with your friends and family. It would help us out so much. The more people who know about it, the more successful we're going to be, the more coverage we can give, and we plan on being around for the long haul. We thank you humbly in advance. Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media. And I love Susie.